Welcome to the second of Bright Green's interviews with the deputy leadership candidates for the Wales Green Party. Before we go any further, I have one thing to ask of you, which is that you scroll down right now and hit that subscribe button. It means that you won't miss any of the other interviews we're putting out with the other candidates, as well as any videos Bright Green puts out in the future. And it also helps us a big deal as well. So before you do anything else, hit that subscribe button. Now, without further ado, I'm going to introduce our candidate that is with us today. It's an absolute pleasure to be joined by Helen Westhead. Helen, how are you doing?
I'm very good, thanks, Chris. It's a pleasure to be here and just recovering from a busy weekend with COP marches and busy week, busy month. It's all going really well.
Glad things are going well, but sorry to add to the busyness of your weekend. I'll start you off with what's hopefully quite a straightforward question, which is just, why do you think you're the best person to be the deputy leader of the Welsh Greens?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for the question. In terms of a bit about my background, I'm an experienced campaigner. I stood for the Senedd elections this year, and I also run as comms officer, the comms for our local Green Party in Cardiff. So I've got that experience across the board of delivery, and we've had been part of some fantastic results this year, including increasing our percentage vote share in the region quite significantly, over 180% this year. And I was behind the scenes there also working on all the comms to make sure that we had clear and consistent messaging, that our ground and air campaigns are coordinated. So really doing some of the nuts and bolts. I took 4 weeks off during that campaign because I wanted to experience all the different aspects of campaigning and to really know what it's like for our members, know what it's like for our volunteers on the ground working really hard and just chipping in, doing lots of different jobs to really experience all the aspects of that and understand how some of that can be improved. And then have taken that into local party development, building up momentum for next year's really important council elections. But what makes me stand out from the crowd for this deputy leadership is I also bring in professional expertise. I'm a leader in the net zero transition for Wales, in my role supporting a major employee-owned engineering firm where I lead a team of 40 environmental consultants, and I actually deliver strategy, policy advice and projects that are really at the heart of the transition. So I'm well known in that respect and have been in Wales for the last 15 years as a professional figure and advocate for Net Zero Wales. And I really hope to bring that in to the deputy leadership role, bring that together and really help foster those relationships and raise the profile of Wales Green Party.
So one of the things that you've mentioned there is the Senedd elections earlier this year. So we're nearly 6 months, maybe 6 months gone from those elections now. There were a lot of hopes on those elections, and I think a lot of people were hoping that this year would have been the year where the Greens broke through into the Senedd for the first time. Why do you think that didn't happen?
Our teams worked really hard, so it wasn't for lack of effort. Strategy was good, although strategy can always be improved. I think fundamentally where we really struggled to get that breakthrough was this need for real proportional representation. So it was very difficult. Whilst we built up the vote share really significant in each of the regions individually, that in terms of the way the voting system works, that wasn't enough. It really would have had to be more substantial in one particular area. So our vote share was groundbreaking in terms of the proportion of vote share across Wales. Wales Green Party was third, but that unfortunately doesn't count when it comes to securing the seats. So what we're really looking to secure now is a bit of a fairer system, more proportional representation next time around.
So in Wales, in those Senedd elections, you've mentioned the electoral system. Now, the electoral system, for those who are watching who don't know, operates on a sort of semi-proportional system where you have constituencies elected through first past the post, and then you have also the list seats, which are on a form of proportional representation. The question I wanted to put to you, Helen, was that across the rest of the UK, you've got the Greens in Northern Ireland, who've held seats in the Northern Ireland Assembly in Stormont for many years now, elected under a proportional system. In Scotland, the Scottish Greens have got basically since the Scottish Parliament's existed, nearly have had seats there and are now in government in Scotland. In London, where there is a proportional system for the Assembly, there are Greens on that body. What makes Wales different? Why haven't the Welsh Greens managed to crack it when it comes to breaking through onto those proportionally elected devolved bodies in the UK?
We've got a slightly different system in Wales that's called the Dehont system. We're speaking to colleagues from Northern Ireland about what we can learn from them, and they have a genuine proportional system that, if that way of counting the votes was applied in Wales, our analysis, who were far cleverer than me and run the numbers, say we would have 3 seats in Wales now. So that's unfortunate. Although as a party, we can't just turn around and say, oh, well, blame the system. There's definitely more that we can do in Wales. And actually, being the only devolved nation without seats now puts a real greater focus on transforming what we do, both within and outside the party, and the way that we communicate and our profile, because we really need to break through in Wales now. And the difference between us and the other parts of the UK now is really stark. So having that support as well, being part of England and Wales Green Party, is really important for us going forward. Securing seats in the council elections next year is really key stepping stone that will then put us in a good position for the Senedd elections next time around.
So that leads beautifully on to what I wanted to ask you next, which is about those council elections taking place next year. So for viewers in England, you might be in an area which has council elections every year, every 2 years, every 3 years. In Wales, it's slightly different. They don't get blessed with regular local elections. It's every 5 years. Now, in the last local elections in Wales, the Greens won just 1 seat. As Deputy Leader, what would you do to make sure that the Greens do break through in the Welsh local elections next May, and that we have more councillors elected across Wales in those elections?
Well, it's a great question, because we have already started. Just over the last couple of months, we have announced their Common Ground campaign. Now, this is Cardiff. This is unique to our circumstances in Cardiff, where we have formed an alliance with Plaid to ensure that we have a shared candidate slate in key wards where we can win. And that, for us locally, is our best chance of securing that seat. And I've been really proud to be working closely with Anthony Slaughter, and the 2 of us sit on the steering group behind that campaign and already making it happen. Just an aside to that, the week after we announced that, a by-election was called. That is happening next week. So we suddenly went, right, let's apply this Common Ground Alliance, see if it works, test our messaging, work together. We're working together really, really productively on that, combining resources, combining expertise. Really excited going into the by-election, which is on Thursday. Real test run for us that we can then learn from and take that experience into next year's election. Now, that's not a model that I'm saying that we are going to apply nationally. That's just something that works in these local circumstances. It's fundamental now that we really push the ambition, and that we perhaps don't hold back in terms of ambition for next year. Some of the organisational development work I've been doing is about making best use of volunteer time by having more structure and more support processes in place, and professionalising the campaign. Volunteers, and myself included, I'm not a graphics expert, so I can spend a lot of time messing around with sort of graphics, trying to make things look professional and coherent. That's a really fundamental nuts and bolts of how we appear to the external environment. We want to now professionalise the campaign. I'll be working really hard to do that, to get the right resources in at the right time. And we've already made some steps to do that. We've appointed a campaigns coordinator, again locally, because that's where I'm involved, but also nationally. Wales Green Party is increasing the level of its professional support on some of those real fundamental pieces to both make us look more professional externally, but also to coordinate the campaign and make best use of resources. So we really, for me, it's about doing things, not just settling for doing things how we've always done it. We do have good systems in place, but it's improving on them and really taking our campaigning to the next level.
I want to spend a little bit of time on that relationship with Plaid and the agreement that was made in Cardiff. So I've recently spoken to Deborah Cooper, who's one of the other candidates in the deputy leadership election, and viewers can see the interview with Deborah. By the time this goes out, it will be on our YouTube channel. But Deborah was very critical of that agreement between the Greens and Plaid in Cardiff. For people who were around in 2019 in the general election, we also saw the Greens enter into electoral alliance with Plaid and the Liberal Democrats in the general election under Unite to Remain. And that also had a lot of criticism. Why do you think that this idea of working together with other parties is the route for the Greens to win seats and to gain political power, rather than standing solely as the Green Party?
So Greens, when they are elected, form alliances to get things done when they're delivering campaigns in chambers, in working in local authorities, in councils. That one green alone is not enough. And so throughout, you talk to anyone who's been elected for the Green Party in England and Wales, forming alliances is a key part of that. Unfortunately, we haven't had that breakthrough in Wales, in Cardiff so far. So the system essentially means that it's very difficult for us to get that breakthrough unless we do something a bit different this time. I understand reticence about forming alliances. Greens particularly, we're extremely protective of our values. And that's something I've worked really hard to maintain in establishing memorandum of understanding and our ways of working with Plaid. So we're not the same party. We're not going to agree on all of our policies, but we are forming an alliance on those issues that are important to local people, so that they can vote for alliances for things that they really believe that will get things done locally. Got lots to say on this. In terms of some of the local campaigns that we're seeing in Cardiff, I think the difference between Greens and Plaid fundamentally is Plaid have independence as the foundation, if you like, of their campaigning activities. Greens voted in favour of independence across Wales, but that's more of a mechanism to deliver what's at the heart of our campaign, which is action on climate and nature emergencies and greater social justice. So I don't see that changing, and we've worked really hard to make sure that that isn't diluted as part of the alliance locally, and that will be relevant whenever alliances are considered in whatever form elsewhere as well.
I guess one of the reasons why the Greens have entered a pact with Plaid in Cardiff is because Welsh politics is quite a crowded field at the moment. You've got obviously Labour, Tories, Lib Dems, then you've got Plaid. You've got on the right, you've got the rump of the Brexit Party and UKIP, and also abolish the Welsh Assembly Party. I think that's still their name, despite the body that they want to abolish having since changed its name. And then you've got the Greens. So it's quite a crowded field in Wales. Where do you think the Greens should be pitching themselves politically in that field? And what are the kind of key issues that you think the Greens should be pushing that will enable the party to take that next step forward in electoral success?
Yeah, it's about localized decision making. Greens are really well placed with this because we're really active in the local community, and there are on the core aspects of what Greens believe. Some of our local campaigns have been focused around green open spaces, better access to walking and cycling facilities. In terms of social justice, important access to housing is absolutely key. And in terms of Wales more widely, we've been really pushing the UBI agenda. In terms of the alliance here, it works in that respect, because actually when people say, oh, alliances haven't worked in the past, well, this one actually takes a very different form, is that we're not standing aside for each other as parties have done in the past. We're actually standing together on these issues on the same candidate slate. So if either party have been close in a particular ward of breaking through there, we're very much working together to break through together, and then taking that into the council level cooperation, which, as I said, we would normally do after the election. And here we're doing it first to really make sure that we actually get that opportunity to get that seat in the first place.
So one thing that I wanted to talk to you about was something that's been going on in the Wales Greens over the last few months, which is we've seen a number of quite high profile or significant people in the party leaving, and a number of them have joined Plaid. So most recently, Emily Durrant, who was the sole Green councillor in Wales, has left the party and joined Plaid. There have been other candidates who were lead list candidates in the Senedd elections just in May, who have also left the Greens and joined Plaid. What's going on there?
So Emily Durrant is fantastic. I met her during the Senedd campaign, went campaigning alongside her, was able to learn a lot from her. She is really well known. She campaigns on real issues that are important, local, and she's had an impact. So the loss of her from the Green Party, it is really a loss for me personally, and for those that have ever known her. She's had a really difficult time. She has been the only elected councillor in Wales. She is in a rural area. I come from a rural area despite being in Cardiff, and I know what the dynamics of some of the rural areas are like, working in smaller communities where everyone knows each other, which is sort of a blessing and a curse in some ways. So she's been working really hard. She's had some challenges. She's taken that decision that joining Plaid is actually a way to just get more done. That independence is first and foremost, and that's what she believes and what she wants to get done. And I absolutely respect that. As I said, I believe that a lot of Greens see independence as a means to an end, to get away from the toxic influence of Westminster and inaction on really important issues. So I think a lot of Greens will get that, will understand the need for alliances, but also get the key differences.
If you're elected as deputy leader, what do you think that you can do that would stop similar situations like this, where elected Greens, high profile Greens, are seeing Plaid as a more plausible vehicle for change, or indeed leaving the party for other reasons? How do you see yourself stemming that kind of exodus that we've seen over the last few months?
I believe that we've got to be bolder, braver, and more ambitious. I bring in my views from the outside world in terms of expertise, and I see how quickly things are moving on the green agenda, on climate agenda. Clearly, we've got COP26 this week, and we're working in a highly dynamic environment, and we have to run to keep up, and we have to sprint to get ahead. So I'm not going to hold back on asking sort of key important questions about how we're really going to turn things around in Wales, and make sure that if members or candidates are sort of losing faith with us as an organisation to deliver that change and keep up, that we'll be at the forefront of that, and we'll be first and foremost. There's a few other things I'd like to see as well. Got a bit of a wish list. One of them is in terms of equality and diversity. We talk the talk, we talk intellectually, and there's a lot of Greens who are just so passionate about the agenda, but we're lacking something in terms of delivery. So now we need to walk the walk, and for me, that is a properly planned, funded, and executed strategy for inclusivity and diversity that starts now for those potential candidates in the Senedd campaign next year. What I've seen so far is really good and questions being asked about diversity of our candidates, but at the point of time where we're selecting candidates, and that is just too late. We need to really plan ahead and deliver more change in that respect. And we also need to, another element of that is bringing our members along with the journey and making sure that it's an inclusive environment for them, that their experience of getting involved in the party works for them. And part of that is professionalising our ground activities as well, making sure all the internal comms is right on the ball, that they're hearing enough from us, and having those opportunities to engage. I see a lot of people join the party really, really keen, want to get going, want to do something, but if the management or coordination mechanisms aren't there, it can lose a bit of momentum. So I'm just basing this on some of my observations and experiences from the party in the last couple of years. So asking those questions, having some of those mechanisms in place. I've already been pushing for greater paid roles and professional support, and we've done that locally, as well as defining the roles of officers a little better so they work together and not duplicating effort. Again, we've done that locally, and it's started to be adopted nationally as well. So there's a lot of things that sort of with my work hat on I'd call organisational development, and piece by piece they're not actually that significant, or they're not actually particularly complicated to implement, but they can have quite a big impact, I think, in the way that we operate.
So on one of those points, you've talked there a little bit about diversity and equalities issues in the Green Party of England and Wales as a whole. I guess there's one big thing that's been a huge point of contention over the last few years, which is around trans rights and transphobia. So much so that Sian Berry, in her statement as to why she wasn't going to stand for leader in the by-election we just had for the Green Party of England and Wales, she mentioned issues of transphobia in the party as being a factor in that. We've also seen the party being criticised a lot for being too white and having a problem with whiteness. As Deputy Leader of the Wales Green Party, how would you tackle those issues?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, tackling the trans agenda, I've been quite amazed by this, really, because for me, it's quite simple. We need to be inclusive of all people, and trans people included in that. Trans women are women, trans men are men. My line is quite firm on that, and I've represented Wales Green Party at hustings where we really got into these issues across the other parties, and there's a lot of sense being talked there. Internally, we seem to be tearing ourselves apart a little bit intellectually, and it's in terms of Wales, there's a lot of people who think like me and don't necessarily see that as an issue for Wales Green Party, and divisive for us more locally. Second question, whiteness. Yes, we're incredibly white. Again, I think it's something about the way that we operate and the way that we engage new members, make sure that they're really feeling included. It's difficult to break through if you don't see someone like yourself there performing a role that you want to do. And I've experienced that as a woman, but I've no idea what it'd be like to experience that as somebody else. So it's about having that focus. It's about listening. It's about actually actively seeking input and feedback. Fantastic to see at Wales level that we have now an equalities and diversity role to focus on that. Probably should have happened already, but these steps are starting to get us there, and to have that real impetus around the agenda.
I've got one final serious question before I've got a series of sort of flippant quickfire questions. The final serious question is just, imagine you do win this election, you're elected as one of the Wales Green Party's deputy leaders, and picture yourself sitting where you are now in a year's time. What's the one thing you would be most proud of having achieved?
That is securing seats at the council elections. It's just a must do. Obviously, proudest of achieving achieving as many seats as possible throughout Wales, throughout a diverse list of candidates.
Brilliant, nice and simple. So on to my flippant questions. What is your favourite biscuit?
Oreos with the little white thing in the middle, you know.
Good choice. Your favourite pizza topping?
Just has to be spicy. Whatever it is, just has to be spicy and dipped in spicy sauce. That's even better.
Very much on board with that. Are you a dog person or a cat person?
I'm a cat person, but my partner's a dog person. So we've agreed at the moment not to have pets, and we've got a 4-year-old instead.
Fair enough. With thinking about the Green Party, what is your favourite and what is your least favourite Green Party policy?
Oh, that's a hard one. Okay. Favourite is, so I work in both energy and transport, so it's quite hard to choose between them in terms of decarbonisation. And I have to admit, I actually wrote some of them last year and they got adopted. So it would be a choice between clean, sustainable, inclusive transport for all, because I think that's actually the key part now that we really need to focus on in decarbonisation. And secondly, our policies that embrace all forms of renewables, because we can't be picking winners at this stage. You know, whenever we talk about decarbonisation, sustainability, it's all of the above. Least favourite is a difficult one because I probably don't read the ones that I really don't like. I remember I was in the policy committee reviewing some about sport last year, and I was thinking, firstly, these don't make sense. And they were saying things like our willingness to support international competitors in certain countries. And I have competed at an international level for Taekwondo, and basically said, no, we can't have this. So that's probably another one of those with a different hat on that I found a bit hard.
We learn all sorts of things in these interviews. I had no idea that you competed at an international level in Taekwondo. That is exciting. My next question is, what book has most influenced your politics?
Oh, it has to be Invisible Women. I was probably quite late to the feminist agenda. I grew up thinking that feminism was first, second wave feminism and something that didn't really impact me, especially as a woman who was sort of getting ahead in career. And then I read Invisible Women, and it takes some of the professional experience and expertise that I have and then applies feminism to that. And suddenly the penny dropped and I just started seeing everything. It was like just really basic things like design of infrastructure for transport around peak periods, which I've been involved in for donkey's years, and then putting a feminist lens on that. It blew my mind and has influenced my politics ever since.
And finally, who in the Green Party inspires you the most?
There's lots of different things I take from lots of different people. I had the opportunity to have coaching from a lot of those individuals during the Senedd campaign at every level. Probably Molly Scott Cato. We were having a Zoom call and I asked her sort of what her experience had been of some inclusivity issues that were impacting me. And she's just so strong, and she was like, well, it's not an issue, this is what I would do. And she's just so strong, decisive, and turns around and says, this isn't an issue for you, you can do it. And yeah, she's fantastic.
I'm sure Molly will be very, very happy to hear that. So that's the last of my questions. It's been an absolute pleasure, Helen. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity, Chris.
So don't go away just yet. I have a few final bits and pieces of admin to go through before you leave. So firstly, you know what I'm going to say. I'm going to tell you to scroll down right now and hit that subscribe button. If you've enjoyed this video, you will enjoy all of the other videos that we put out. Hitting that subscribe button means you won't miss a thing, and you'll make sure that you get a notification each time we put something out. We've discussed a lot of things in the last sort of 30 minutes. I'm sure you have strong views on lots of them. If you have any thoughts about what you've heard, you agree with anything, you disagree with anything, let us know in the comments down below and keep the conversation going there. Second to last thing is just that at Bright Green, we have not got the fortune of being backed by billionaires and big business. We are solely funded by the generous donations of lovely people just like you. So if you are able to, we ask people to donate just £5 a month, and it funds these videos. It enables us to put out more coverage on the Green Party of England and Wales, the Green Party in Northern Ireland, the Scottish Greens, the Labour movement, social movements, and the wider left as well. So please do head to bright-green.org/donate and set up a donation today. And the last thing to just remind you is, if you are a member of the Wales Green Party, vote in this election. I don't yet know whether ballots have landed in your inbox, but they will be at some point. You'll be able to vote, and make sure you do cast your ballot. And also, of course, check out the rest of the interviews we have with the candidates so that you can make an informed decision. So that's all from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you very, very soon.